1960 Plymouth Fury. Been working on this car now for a couple months. As you can see, it runs very well. It's a 318 poly engine. Timed well. Shut it off for a minute. So like I said, this is a 1960 Plymouth Fury. Virgil Exner is the designer. So for those of you working on these engines, you may know, or maybe you don't know, but it uses a generator. So that generator is starting to go, or it is going. It works, but it's not charging the battery. So is it the regulator? Maybe. But what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to convert it to a one-wire alternator, which I think is the best strategy. I've already upgraded to electronic ignition. This is an eBay special, but it works just fine. So, you know, you get them online, including the coil. It's about $150, coil and wires. One of the biggest problems I had on this was getting the water pump bolt out. Water pump bolt. One of the longest bolts now is this one. That's the longest bolt. It goes through the timing cover, the water pump, and then into the block. So that is a big deal. And when I had to heat that up there, as you can see, I'm going to have to probably replace that timing cover gasket. So, because I had to heat it up several times to get that bolt out. So that was a job. I actually had to cut the bolt head off and kind of work it out with vice grips. So that gave me a little more leverage. Power steering's working fine. Had to put a new radiator in it. I used a radiator from the 64, which in this particular case is a little shorter. Core dimensions are the same, but it's not as wide. I had to do some modifications there to bring it in. You can call it a hack if you like. It's okay. I'm okay with that. And so that was only about $140. That works just fine. So like I said, the next thing is alternator. And I'm going to put an alternator in it. The Carter carburetor works just fine. 2-barrel, no big deal. Big problem with these 60 Furies is the crease right here. The guy before me had it, and he did a little bit of repair work here. Not really so great, but still a little bent, and then when it closes it kind of sticks up. So I need to work on that. So that's an issue. Another problem with these cars is the brakes. The brakes, I redid the whole brake system. The rear brake drums are a pressed axle, so you have to use an axle, or basically you have to pull the drum off with a tool, which is real. It's called a tapered axle, I think that's what it's called. So that was a real job. But I tell you what, once you get the proper tools for it, no big deal. So got to also put a pinion seal in this, because we got the pinion seal leaking, and we're going to put some new shocks in the back. Springs are a little bit shot, so I'm going to put some coil over shocks. Interior is not so great, so we're not even going to look in there, but I'll show it to you, but not impressive. I mean, the dash is okay, but of course originally the dash pad was there. We might just paint that. I'm going to put a cover on this. Got an aftermarket radio. There was no radio when originally purchased, so this is just empty. Your 8-track player, so you can see this is probably installed, I would say, in the late 70s, early 80s. It does work. Seems like the temperature stays around 190 on these. At least so far as I've towed it around town, and it just stays around 190 the temp, which isn't so bad. This is just crudely installed right now, just so I can see. So temperature And then the oil pressure gets around 40, 50, which isn't too bad. But then, of course, when it warms up, it goes down to about 20 or a little less. But when you rev it up, when you get back on the road and when you drive it, she moves right on up. Push button transmission on this, which I believe is a 727 transmission. Correct me if I'm wrong. I need a new speedometer cable. That one broke. I also need to work on the lights and the clock. This is not the sought-after steering wheel, as many of you may know, on the 60 Fury, the oval steering wheel with the clear plastic is the preferred steering wheel, but this is the other option. And of course, the rear view mirror is mounted to the dash. Heat works well. I flushed the system. All the windows work just fine. Now back to the brakes. Front brake system is a two wheel cylinders on the front. You got one up top and one down the bottom. So each one basically operates each shoe. And there's 2 bleeders. So you got 6 bleeders on this system. It's really not that difficult. Another thing you want to kind of look forward to is if you have the 2-inch brake shoes on your Plymouth Fury on Rock Auto, it will only show that the 2-inch brake shoes are available for the rear, which is incorrect, because all you have to do is flip them over and you use them for the front. Okay, so the 2-inch brakes shoes available on Rock Auto fit both the front and the rear drums. That's for the 2-inch brake shoe. Like I said, pretty much got this thing roadworthy. Like I said, we need to work on alternator, one wire. I do want to bleed the brakes one more time, and pinion seal, shocks. Other than that, I think, she's roadworthy. I mean, she gets on down the road. I mean, just tell you what, the electronic ignition on here woke it up, and I think, this is originally, this generator, from what I understand, is only 30 amps. So we increased the amps on that. We give it an alternator. Got the electronic ignition. It's timed just fine. Another thing you got to remember on this car and these 60 Furies is they have solid lifters. So solid lifters require valve adjustments, okay? So keep that in mind. When you do your valve adjustment, you have to do, I think it's 10 thousandths on the intake and 18 thousandths on the exhaust clearance. So look all that information up. Or if you hear clattering, it's valve train, but it's valve train that you can fix, okay? So these are not hydraulic lifter engines. Solid lifters will clatter, especially if they get out of adjustment. And I think that's one of the reasons why they made these valve covers only with 2 bolts, so they can take them off and put it back on quickly. They do have 3-bolt valve covers for these engines, I believe, but these are the 2 bolts. So you gotta realize, 1960, they want them in, they want them out. 2 bolts, boop, and then they went through go through your rotation for your firing order. I think you have to do the intake hot for the valves, okay? So valve clearance. You gotta get your feeler gauge out, do all your research. Intake, exhaust are different. 2 different measurements on that, on your feeler gauge. But you tell you what, you get these valves, you adjust these valves, and this engine quiets right down. As long as you got oil pressure. So that was a big thing. Timing's good. Let's see what else. Anything else I could talk about? Heat works. Fuel pump is already there. But this is a 19, like I said, and I got all the stuff. I got all the script and all that. Like I said, you got a little ding there. Over here, you got a little. It's up a little bit, but I'm going to work on that, bring it down some. But for me, the biggest thing for this car to get it roadworthy: pinion seal, shocks, alternator. I think once I do those 3 things, she'll be fine. She runs on down the road now, okay? You gotta realize, I think this was like Plymouth's answer to the '59 Cadillac. So, you know, might have been a little too much, little too late. Too much, too late. But it's got a beautiful stance. Like I said, with the coilover shocks, she'll probably sit up a nice little higher. Looking up online, Virgil Exner, he was the designer, and I think he worked for Chrysler until about 1962, 1963, and then I'm pretty sure they fired him. These things were kind of going down a bit. But 3 different kind of cars available in 1960 from Plymouth was the Savoy, the Belvedere, and the Fury. Now the Fury had this badge. Belvedere had 3 marks, and then the Savoy had like a little mark down here, like almost like a little fish. So basically, it was Belvedere. That was the top of the line you were getting. You was like, whoa, you got the and then you had the Belvedere. Excuse me, the Fury was top of the line, Belvedere, and then the Savoy. Basically, all the same, other than the fact that you get the chrome. When the Fury, you got the chrome. You get all this chrome all the way around, and I'm going to shine that all up. All that chrome all around the wheel wells, you get chrome. So when you get the Fury, you're getting the stuff. And I believe this is also the first unibody car for Plymouth. 2-barrel Carter carburetor, which probably could be very easily upgraded to a 4-barrel, which I understand some of the old timers told me that they used these engines for racing back in the day. So throw a 4-barrel in there, and there you go. Anyway, look, this is a 1960 Plymouth Fury. I'm sharing insight into what I've learned with you, and I hope you know, there's some guys out there with some Plymouth Furies 1960 that need some info, can learn from this. And like I said, just all that information is all stuff that I had. A lot of the stuff I had to find out myself. But here it is, and we'll talk to you later.